We encourage social sharing on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. Make sure to include hashtag IRMDallas to connect and chat with us and fellow attendees. For those of you just joining us, welcome. I have the pleasure of introducing our presenters, Dallas Fire Captain Dwight Freeman and Greg Goree. Dwight Freeman is an experienced professional with a significant background in construction, code enforcement matters, and has worked in conjunction with the numerous local, state, and federal agencies. Dwight was promoted to captain in July of 2017 and has served on many individualized work groups with the Inspections and Life Safety Education Division. Currently, he is the committee chair of the DFR Inspections and Fire Safety Education Division and 2021 Fire Code Development Committee, a member of the North Texas Council of Government, Fire Advisory Board, and Regional Code Coordinating Committee. This guy knows his stuff. As a certified Lean Six Sigma Green Belt, he has been tasked with process improvement projects throughout Dallas. Greg Goree has 25 years of success in providing support services to our owners, managers, and tenants of commercial real estate. Fort Worth IRM honored Greg with Friends of the Year in 2012. IRM Dallas Service Committee of the Year presented Greg with the 2011 with the Special Award of Outstanding Achievement for our organization in public relations as a friend of IRM. Today, Greg is focusing his attention on photoluminescent, specifically means of egress path markings for high-rise buildings. Please welcome Greg to share his knowledge of PM.
Thank you, President Z. Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you, IRM Dallas, Programs Committee, Sharon, Scott, and Susan Nash for facilitating this informational seminar. You know, once I asked a brilliant marketing researcher, his name was Christo Jackson, to be a keynote speaker at an event at Mission Country Club in Midland. The next morning, the Midland Reporter-Telegram quoted him, "Knowledge is power, power is delightful, and absolute power is absolutely delightful." That statement always resonated with me, and I think if you listen to it, knowledge is so much power. So today I want to share with you the knowledge I've gained in researching photoluminescence. We'll cover the history of PL, which is short for photoluminescent, approved products, type of buildings included in the fire code, talk about lead points. I'll show you some samples of products and compliance guides. Let's start at the best place at a training video on how photoluminescence saves time and saves lives. This is just 2.5 minutes.
These firefighters are glowing in the dark for good reason. They are testing new firefighter safety equipment and products designed to improve visual accountability that help them reach victims faster. This is the first test of its kind to determine scientifically how photoluminescence improves safety for first responders. These tests were done with and without photoluminescent technology. One of the most dangerous aspects of a rescue is limited or zero visibility conditions that happen in smoky environments.
Situation, I had a company of 3 additional firefighters. Just a quick visual, I was able to keep track of my members. So the accountability was there. And then I was able to navigate a stairwell. I'm not very familiar with this training tower that we're here today. And because of the photoluminescence that's been placed, it sped things up.
The photoluminescent products decrease the firefighter's rescue time by 45 seconds, which means they reach the victim 30% faster. Photoluminescent technology is fail-safe because it uses no batteries or electricity. Photoluminescent crystals are embedded in the special materials that can wrap the axe handle, highlight the trim on firefighter turnout gear, and show egress markings in stairwells. This material attracts ambient light, and in the dark, emit the light as a glow. The 1993 World Trade Center attack required 6 hours to evacuate the towers. After the 1993 bombing, the Port Authority passed a law requiring photoluminescent paint to be added to the stairwells of the World Trade Center buildings. With photoluminescent markings in dark stairwells, the 2001 evacuation took just over 1 hour. Since photoluminescence utilizes stored energy to glow in the dark, firefighters now have numerous options for light to provide greater visual accountability to each other and their equipment for improved safety.
I would say the seconds that we gain with this technology is just that. We're saving lives.
We're back, everyone. I hope you got a grasp of what photoluminescence is. Speaking of the 9/11 World Trade Center, there was surveys and focus groups done. A final report was published of the 17,000 survivors, over 1,200 interviews and 6 focus groups. The 3 most common aids to evacuation were coworkers, first responders, and photoluminescent markings in the stairwells. What is photoluminescence? It's phosphorus derived from non-radioactive rare earth materials that are absorbed and stored energy from ambient light conditions. In darkness, they will emit luminous glow by releasing the stored energy. Exposed to light, repeats the process. What are your light sources for charging? Just about everything: sunlight, fluorescent, incandescent. The only thing that's not acceptable is low P sodium, which is like your vapor lights for those of you that are old enough that used to be in your high school gyms. Types of products. There is tape, which here's a sample of some obstruction tape. Abrasive tape. There are PL strips. I'm trying to do this. This is an aluminum rigid strip. This is a flexible strip. We have PVC, semi-rigid tape. And here is a miniature of what the signs look like that have braille and have everything glow in the dark also. So there's many manufacturers and distributors out there. You just have to do your research for what is proper for you. Photoluminescent paint, drill down a little on that. ASTM has approved photoluminescent paint. It is not approved by UL 1994 due to uncontrolled applications variables deemed significant for product performance. To specify that right out of the code book a little better, if you look down in the red box, field application of PL pigment by painting, spraying not permitted due to uncontrollable application variables, according to the UL guide information. So basically, and up in that bigger box, it says paint can be applied at the factory to a substrate to be put into the field, but it cannot be applied directly to the building surfaces. The type of buildings that are covered in this code, they've got them grouped as A, B, E, I, M, and RI. In simplicity, it encompasses everything that is not a 24-hour resident, a permanent resident, like condos and apartments. So you can look at that a little more detailed, but basically it's all high-rise buildings above 75 feet. Lead point qualifiers. Those of you that are familiar and trying to get more lead points, if you select PVC material, you get points. Recycled material gets points, made in the USA. Some of the manufacturers of this PL are overseas. Some are in Wichita, Kansas. They're all over. And then the exit sign system alone qualifies you for LEED, energy conservation, and sustainability. In short, this is the page to grab, the summary. Chapter 10, means of egress. What is that? Photoluminescent markings in all enclosed stairwells used in emergency evacuations in all new and existing high-rise buildings must have it on their handrails, stair treads, landing demarcation, obstruction markings, final door exit markings, and the directional signage is optional, which is something like this. So, all buildings with occupied floors over 75 feet. This is just a quick, don't try to read this, but this is where we're pulling all this information from, is the 2000 International Fire Code. A couple of pages of it. And then here's a guide that one of our distributors shared with me that has a picture. You see where it shows steps, 1025, 2.1, and there's a picture of a stair nosing, which I showed you earlier, like this piece here. It's just a little easier to comprehend and understand. So with that, there's some more of it. You can see the exit doors and the signage of the stairwells. Here's an example of PL that has been installed. And here is a nighttime view or a dark view of that same stairwell and a person walking out in the dark. So basically, that is my quick little overview of what is photoluminescence. I'd like to turn over now, and I'm going to stop sharing my screen, to the captain. Captain Freeman, I should say, has been a champion as far as me going to for research. He is the captain of the Knox coordinator and a devoted member of our Dallas Fire and Rescue team. Captain Freeman, would you like to go ahead, please, sir?
Greg, can you quit sharing your screen, please?
There you go.
Okay, there we go. Thank you. And I will get this PowerPoint up. One moment, please. Oops, where'd you go?
We will have Q&A at the end of Captain Freeman's presentation.
All right, how's everybody doing today? As Mr. Goree stated, we've worked together here recently to address the issues of providing information for luminous egress path markings as identified by the fire code. You can go ahead and give me the next screen, please. Before we really get into the nuts and bolts of it, and I won't rehash a lot of what Mr. Goree's already shared, but just kind of stating that there's no financial or beneficial relationship from the presentation. I'm here just basically to state code. And in this particular reference, we're actually looking at the 2015 International Fire Code, which is the basis for the 2016 Dallas Fire Code. And all that simply means is that we took the 2015 as a model, we changed a few things and made amendments that suit the city of Dallas. So that's the reason we made it the 2016 Dallas Fire Code. So a lot of times you'll hear it being used interchangeably. Next slide, please. Just a brief presentation overview. You can go ahead and do the next slide. Back in the 2009 International Fire Code was when the photoluminescence first came about. And it was based on a NIST study done after the World Trade Center incidents. As of such, it's been one of those things that slowly evolved, but for the most part, it really has not changed since it was first adopted. The city of Dallas did not adopt the 2009, so a lot of people kind of missed out on that window to get in before now. And so it seems like it's a new thing, but it's just one of those that we are finally getting around to putting in place and making sure that our buildings are as code compliant as we can get them. The 2012 was the first fire code. Dallas Fire Code was the first one that we really had a groundswell of interest in the photoluminescence. And as such, we've kind of learned and we've kind of grown with our partners in the business world of what it is we really are looking for, how we're going to enforce it, and things that will work in relation to the common business continuity and your everyday operation within your building. We'll talk a little bit more later on about it, but right now we're under the 2015 code, but we're already looking to start evaluating the 2021 International Fire Code for adoption, hopefully by October, November next year at the absolute latest. So that's a work in progress, and I'll share my contact information at the end. So if there are questions, concerns, and or input on how we can try to make the code process and code annual inspections for your properties maybe a little bit easier or not necessarily more tolerable, because nobody really likes going through inspections that way, but making it so we're more partners as opposed to authority and entity. Next slide, please. As Mr. Goree stated, it's in the existing buildings portion of the fire code, which is in chapter 11, which refers us back to the new portion of the fire code, or for new fire code requirements of buildings in section 1025. And so they're one and the same. It's just that the way the code is broken down, we have to address existing buildings separately from new buildings. So most of the times you'll see our inspectors write up chapter 11 as opposed to chapter 10. And so that's just a nuance of the way the codes are structured. As Mr. Goree stated, it's required in all assembly, general business, education, institutional, mercantile, and residential type occupancies that fit the high-rise demarcation, which is actually usually 75 feet above fire department level of access. So in most of your buildings, that'll be street level. Some of the odd buildings that we have, and I call them odd just because they're architectural features, but they may have a split level at the ground floor, where on one side of the building you're at let's say ground, on the other side you may consider that basement, depending on how the elevators run or the uniqueness of your facility. Next slide, please. Several of the things that we look at when we come and do your annual inspection, or when we talk with your property managers or your building engineers about the photoluminescence, of course, number one is always budget constraints. We understand if you take a 50-story building with 4 separate stairwells, that can add up pretty quickly. And we're not being ogres about it or tyrants. We just want to make sure you're safe as we go through. And so one of the things we'll look at is having some type of a plan of operation. How are we going to attack this? And we know that sometimes eating that elephant is a daunting task, but if you do it one bite at a time and with partners, it becomes a little bit more tolerable. And of course, we talked about the business continuity, maintaining security through your facility as you have crews and personnel working in your building that may or may not be familiar with everyone, and vice versa. They may see some things or see some people that they're unfamiliar with. And of course, personnel and visitor safety is always, always number one. While people are working in stairwells, we don't want to have a situation where that stairwell is needed for an emergency and you have tools or equipment or whatever that may make traversing that area unsafe. And so again, it goes back to a bigger plan of action. How can we direct staff, personnel, visitors in the most efficient way and still maintain a safe operating building? Mr. Goree stated paints are fluid-based applications. We know that there are some out there that some contractors will come in and they will roll down, or they will use a brush and put down paints on your stairs and say, hey, we're doing a great job. Well, those come with air quality concerns that we have to take into account as well. And those individual factors are things that you and your building personnel would be better suited to help address, so that you know your systems better than we would and better than a contractor would. So again, it's an eyes open and a forward thinking atmosphere when we start to talk about the photoluminescence and gaining that code compliance. And of course, we touched on the annual inspections and the corrective timeframes. One of the things that we look at doing, and you can go to the next slide, please. One of the things that we look at doing is having that plan in writing. And a lot of times you'll hear our inspectors talk about a letter of commitment. Basically, that's your agreement with the fire department, with the city, that says, hey, we're understanding that this is a deficiency and here's our plan to attack it. Sometimes that addresses the budget constraints, which is always usually a good thing, because I know sometimes we can do an inspection in the middle of your fiscal year where you weren't planning on that big expense. Or it could be one of those things where you need to start talking to your building owners in a more constructive fashion with a longer lead time that maybe gets it into the next budget cycle. So again, these are things that are unique to your individual facility. I don't want to paint anyone into a picture and says it has to be done this way or that way. I like maintaining a flexible approach to these things so that way we can work with you and your constraints in a more friendly fashion. Again, we don't want to be so rigid that says you have to do it by this date or else there are going to be consequences. Yes, that's always a consideration, but I'd rather for the partnership to be there that we can have a open, ongoing dialogue and visit regularly to see continual progress, to concede that if there are issues that we can work through those so that we all wind up at the same place that we need to be. And that is, again, providing that safe operational building for our personnel and those who visit and use our facilities in case the worst incident ever happened that we need to use those in an emergency. Next slide, please. One of the things that some of you guys may be aware of is that during COVID-19, a lot of our inspection activities were ceased or halted. And that was through a city management process that said, hey, right now is probably not the best time to go into a bunch of different areas and maybe cross-contaminate or be contaminated by things that we really don't know. This whole disease process has been real difficult for a lot of folks that we just don't know what we don't know until after the fact. And that's just not the best way to handle it. So we've been planning, we've been strategizing the best ways to reintroduce those inspections. And for the most part, it comes down to the need. Are you notifying us that, hey, I've got permits that are expiring. Hey, I've got a license that I have to send off to the state for renewal. Hey, I've got a system that's just completely out of service. What do we do? So a lot of our inspections have been complaint-based up until this point, but we are slowly but surely reintroducing those ongoing annual inspections and proactive inspections as timing and as the backlog of those complaints are worked with and dealt with. So work with us, we'll work with you. If you know that hey, I need my annual in October. Well, you call us a couple of weeks in advance, we try to get you done. If it's one of those where, hey, I haven't seen a fire inspector in 2 years, great, give us a call. We'll get you scheduled. We'll send someone out. They'll go through and they'll work with you to make sure that your building meets the code compliant regulations for your particular occupancy. As I stated, the 2021 fire code is in process. In fact, the ICC, or International Code Council, just made some of those documents available for purchase. And as such, we're going to start requesting the funding to get those purchased so we can actually put hands on them and start making those reviews and those edits that suit Dallas as opposed to something that suits a larger or a smaller town. For those who don't know, a lot of our codes go through the North Texas Council of Governments over in Arlington, where we are a member of that group. And there are approximately 18 to 21 different jurisdictions that all come together and collaborate on the fire code amendments for the region. And the whole purpose is to try to get everybody to play by the same set of rules so that when Greg comes to Dallas, he's not having to operate too much indifferent than he does over in Arlington or Richardson or Fort Worth, so that everybody kind of knows what the rules are so that we can try to maintain that regional approach to code compliance across the board. And the last bullet there, local adoption process. That's one of those whereby we'll actually have an internal team that we will go through and we will look at those same amendments and we will make a further edit to say, hey, that's a good fit for Dallas, or no, it doesn't really fit for us. Or there are certain nuances that we want to keep that has been uniquely Dallas that we continue and further on into the next cycle or the next process. And I'll make a shameless plug here. This is where I pretty much need some help from some of you guys. We have a fire code advisory and appeals board where we actually have like-minded individuals who can sit and make those recommendations to the fire code. Right now, we have several vacancies, and I'd love to have some new people in to help give new, fresh perspectives on the fire code amendments that we're adopting. and I could be your point of contact to make sure that we get you through the process, or whomever you decide to designate, if that is something that you want to do. But again, my contact information is available, and we can have that conversation offline. Next, please. All righty. This is kind of where we'll kind of open up to the Q&A. I just wanted to provide the phone number and the name for our high-rise supervisor, which is Lieutenant Nimbi Badajobin. He's been with the department for several years and has a pretty good handle on how to make things work in regards to the high-rise environment. He maintains a staff of about 6 to 7 individuals at this point in time who are scattered amongst the city to do those high-rise inspections. But again, we're all here to assist you however that may be. With that, questions and answers, and Mr. Greg, we're here to answer or entertain those questions or whatever may be in the chat. Thank you.
Thank you, Captain Freeman. Everybody, you can hear me still? Allie, okay, I see you shaking your head. Any Q&A, any questions sent in that the captain and I could answer for you?
I think we're waiting for a second. We just got one.
All right, I'm seeing.
What is the life expectancy of the PL material?
Depending on the product you buy, tape generally comes with a 1-year warranty. The problems with tape, it will peel over time, but it's good for surfaces that are above ground. The PVC for stair nosings or for floor demarcations have a warranty behind them of 2 years, but they last longer. The aluminum stair nosings and floor demarcations have a warranty of 5 years. So it's just kind of, do you want to buy a frown filter, or do you want to buy a something less expensive and just get by and deal with it every year? There's many manufacturers out there, many distributors. You can choose and pick what you want, but I will tell you the photoluminescent itself lasts about 25 years from any reputable manufacturer as far as the glow in the dark. It will not lose its glow in the dark, but about 5% over a 25-year period. It's just a substrate material that you're putting it down in. But I have gone personally all over Texas seeing installations. These are installed indoors and outside. So to get rough quick, it's been installed at the San Antonio Riverwalk for the past, I think, 12 years, and many stadiums around the country for about 10. So I hope that answers your question. Next.
What is the name of the review board with vacancies for upcoming fire code amendments?
That would be the Fire Code Advisory and Appeals Board. And those are also found on DallasCityHall.com under boards and commissions if they want to go through the public route.
And we are also recording this session, so we will make that available to anybody who is interested in that.
They also want to say how much they appreciated and enjoyed the presentation to you both.
Yes.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
Anyone who has not submitted a number between 1 and 100, please do so now. If you've already submitted, hold off, and we will see if we have a winners of the gift cards. We're giving, Swing Stage is giving away 2 $100 gift cards. When we announce the winner, we'll ask them to stay on briefly and type your address where it will be mailed to. Allie, are you getting that?
Yeah, I'm watching. You have some background noise.
Well, I'd like to thank Captain Freeman and Greg for the very helpful information. I know I personally am interested in the Fire Code Advisory Board. And the fact that he's encouraging building partnerships and open dialogue with owners and property managers. I think it's very refreshing to hear that, especially in new builds. So thank you so much for all the information.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay. How are we doing on the numbers, Ally?
For whoever wins these numbers while they're continuing to take numbers in, you're probably a member of IREM, but with your, when we announce the winner by name, if you'll just send Kristen or Ally or both your name and business address, Susan Nash and or I will mail the $100 Visa gift cards to your business address.
Are there any other questions?
Well, hopefully we did a good job explaining. Thank you, Captain.
We, on behalf of IREM, would really like to thank you both very much. That was very good and very informative, and hope to have you back. Ally, you have winners?
Yes. So we have Marcus and Annette Steele.
Okay.
Marcus who?
We don't have
Marcus, what's your last name, Marcus?
Okay, well, we'll get that.
It's Moore.
Marcus Moore.
All right. Marcus and Annette, thank you for joining us today. Congratulations on winning a $100 gift card. You can take us all out to eat.
the numbers. Okay. And the numbers, I have a question. What were the numbers, Greg? The closest to the two numbers.
The numbers were 5 and 11, today's date.
And we picked everybody that was closest. We had 1 5 and then we had a 10.
We did not have an 11.
No 11s.
That's
Wait,
all
Vince
right.
Vince says he got 11. Who did he send it to?
Vince?
Vince.
He says joking.
Oh, joking.
Oh.
Hey,
Ha, 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 ha.
Vince Bavato.
Vince, don't scare me like that, man. I was like, I had one job.
Well, thank you again very much. Thank you, Captain, so much.
And just an FYI, one of my cohorts put the link to the Dallas City Hall website in the chat for everyone who would be interested.
And Rich Elam, that was not very nice.
It sure wasn't Rich Elam. Who is that outlaw?
Greg's about to figure out how to
Kristen, I want to say thank you to the programs committee, to Sharon and Scott, Susan Nash. Thank you for allowing me to get with Captain Freeman and put this together for y'all. You can reach out to me if you have any questions offline at Greg at swingstage.com. And Captain Freeman provided his information. But thank you again. It's always wonderful to work with the folks at IREM and you.
Thank you all very much. Have
Thanks,
a wonderful
guys.
day. And
Goodbye.
we-